Hey dolls, welcome back to another live stream. If you're catching the replay, I will get started around the 5 minute mark. So you can fast forward if you want, or you can listen to these announcements because you never know. I might say something that you want to hear. Okay. I might say something that might help you. So, of course, before anything else, please make sure that you press the like and you press share so that YouTube knows that you enjoy this content. It's free to show love. It is literally free to press like, press share, get this information out to more people. And so, like I said, they know that you enjoy this content. Also, don't forget to check the description box. I always have a lot of goodies in the description box. So, for starters, if you want to join the newsletter, it goes out on the 1st and 15th of every month, unless I'm running late. Like yesterday, I actually ended up sending it out instead of Sunday because I had a lot to do this weekend. So, I didn't get it out on Sunday, but it went out yesterday. And that's why I share gems on business, faith, and life. I try to just have like a personal one-on-one type conversation. I tell you guys like what's going on with me and all the stuff that you're not going to hear or see anywhere else on social media. So, and at some point I'm going to be hosting events and having like girls trips and stuff, so people on the newsletter are going to get discounts and special exclusive offers and stuff like that. So you want to join that. Like, it's free, you have nothing to lose, and plus like I said, that's our one-on-one time. Also, if you are someone that's looking to create another stream of income, whether it's side income or you want to build it to a business at some point, you have gifts and talents and passions and stuff that you can be making money from right now. Like, money is all around us right now, and in this economy you need to be having you some side money, okay, at the very least. So if you're someone who's like, look, I want to learn how I can monetize these talents, these gifts, like how can we get to the coins, okay, then look down below and book a creative consultation call with me, and I will help you put that together. I've helped a couple of people so far do it. So on social media, and at some point I'll have like like ads running before my live streams and stuff so you can see these people, but I do talk about this in the newsletter as well. But some of the people I've helped, so on Instagram, is real makeup mommy, or modern day makeup mommy. I've helped her with all three legs of her consulting and all the stuff that she's doing. I've helped Symphony Music Group design what they're doing. So they work with musicians, and that's my good friend Bea. They work with musicians to help them like really put their emotions and find healing through music. And so she actually just did the production for A-Dub White's new song and music video, First Date, which just reached 50,000 streams. So, we out here, we doing things. I'm also currently working with 8 Productions, which is an up and coming production company based out of the DMV. Auntie Jody on YouTube. These are all people that I have worked with and are working with to help them make their brand cohesive. I have also done calls with just a whole bunch of people, y'all. Like, it's a lot. So I can't even remember all my clients off, the bat. But needless to say, hey, Michelle, if you are like, I'm ready to monetize these gifts and these talents, then book a creative consultation call or send me an email at officialrondelmartin@gmail.com. And we can discuss how we can work together, because I do have a few different programs and things like that. Also, if you missed last week's live stream, that was last Thursday, I should say. That live stream was the first installment of the Mental Matters series this month, because May is Mental Health Awareness Month. And so I'm trying to cover different angles, so we talked about why Christians should care about mental health. And we had ROSLYN RENE, who is also the creator of Therapy as a Christian podcast, on here. And she really broke it down for us about how God cares about our soul, which is our emotions, our mind, our mental health, and that lives on. So that was really good. It was very transformative. And you can see Michelle saying it was good. Go watch it, period, if you missed it, So very, very good. This Thursday, we're going to have a very in-depth discussion and transparent discussion about coping with depression and bipolar disorder as a Christian. And we're going to have Priscilla Henley of Her Faith Walk on here. We hear about depression and anxiety and stuff like that when it comes to mental health, but we rarely, or at least I rarely, hear about bipolar disorder and get to have a conversation with someone who is living with that and navigating life with that. So that's going to be a very, very good discussion. It might be a little triggering, so viewer discretion is advised, but it's going to help us just understand it better, and also how we can be a better support system to those people living with it. And then next week is going to be me, my girl Shay from Obedience Podcast, and my sis Yasmin Williams Woods, also a YouTuber and Christian motivational speaker. And we're going to have a panel discussion about our journeys, our respective journeys, coping with anxiety, because all of us have an anxiety journey and stuff like that. This coming Sunday also, we're having another Sunday kickback. And so I am going to be doing a story time, the long awaited story time, okay, about that relationship that literally challenged my mental health and almost made me leave the church, y'all. I was literally this close to leaving the church altogether last year after that relationship. So that's going to be 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central this Sunday, the 22nd. Grab your popcorn, grab your drink of choice. I don't judge. If you need you some wine, whatever, get whatever you need, because we going to be having the tea spilled, but it's going to be lessons in there too and gems, and we just going to flow and kick it and have a good time. And also, I'm going to be doing a giveaway on Sunday too, because on Mother's Day, I wanted to give money to two moms, and two moms were not live during the giveaway. So I'm going to be doing another cash giveaway, but that cash giveaway is going to be open to everybody. But again, you got to be live to receive the cash, and preferably you have to have Zelle, but we can possibly also do Cash App. It just really just depends. But, just keep an eye out. So either way, we're gonna go ahead and get started. Yes, I don't hear much about bipolar disorder either. Last time I really did a quote unquote deep dive on it was in high school. And even then, they didn't really go into the depths of it. Like anxiety, depression, things like that get a lot more attention. And, but a lot of people struggle with anxiety. I think that's the most common mental illness in the US. So I get it. And depression, I think, is like the second most. But a lot of people, from what I've been doing my research on to, form the agenda for Thursday, a lot of people who struggle with depression are also prone to bipolar disorder and vice versa. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. I'm looking forward to learning more about it. And so we're going to go ahead and dive into this topic. I'm not going to be too long today. I know I say that every live stream, but legitimately, I'm not going to be too long today because I do have to head back out. And I do have to get up, not like early, but earlier tomorrow, so I can go get the oil changed on the car and the tires changed and all that good stuff. So we are going to breeze through tonight, but keep discussing, keep chatting. If you're watching the replay, leave comments down below. Don't forget to, like I said, share this out and like it. Those two things matter a lot to YouTube because it's a machine. They want to know that you're enjoying this content. And I know sometimes you could just kind of be autopilot, just consuming content, but don't forget to hit like and hit subscribe if you've been watching some videos and you're not subscribed yet, and also hit share. So today's topic is actually part 2. I originally did part 1 of this discussion. I believe it was either end of January or early February. It was one of the two. And again, I'm going to be really stepping my game up because I upgraded to the professional version of StreamYard. So at some point, I can't say when, but at some point I'm going to be having images flash across my live streams and, having my little video ads and stuff. We gonna elevate, but just be patient with me. But I would have flashed a thumbnail across here, but the thumbnail was, it was me in a red sweater. And I was like this, and I was like, you need therapy and Jesus, or do you need Jesus and therapy or something like that? And so in that, I talked about why, as Christians in particular, we need therapy. I mean, I know it's a hot topic these days. I know everybody's always talking about therapy, but I really just wanted to give a baseline discussion in that video. And it was a pre-recorded video where I just went in real briefly, but still detailed, and was like, yeah, this is why you need therapy. And I believe everybody needs therapy, even if you feel well, my life has been pretty good. I haven't had any crazy traumatic events happening. I feel like everybody can benefit from at least 1 or 2 good therapy sessions, because we all have experiences. We all have emotions, whether they're overt or covert. We all have things we've been through that affect how we view the world, how we navigate life, how we deal with, and relate to people, all of that. So I feel like all of us, everybody needs therapy. Okay, that's just me. So I broke that down in that video. But I wanted to do a part 2 because, like I said, therapy is a very hot topic. Right now, over the past, I would say 3 years or so, it's always therapy, get the therapy, go to therapy, get a therapist, therapy. And I personally, this year, started my search to get a professional therapist. Because I've done support groups. I've done friends and family. I've done not where I was signed up for counseling, but I knew someone who knew a counselor who acted as such for me, kind of thing. But I didn't have a professional, session where it's okay, I'm a client and this and that. And so I was this year I'm getting therapy. Okay. I was charging ahead. I was ready to go. And I just kept finding roadblock after roadblock after roadblock. And it's just like, what in the world? Now, to give y'all some context, I am self-employed, okay? And my insurance of choice that I have the accessibility to without putting all my business out there is not top tier. Like, it's not like a PPO, you know, or anything like that. But for what I can afford and what's available to me right now, it does the job. It gets the job done, right? And so I was like, okay, like I should be able to find something. And it was just an epic fail. This was not my first time looking for professional therapy. When I was on Medicaid in Virginia, I actually looked too, and I'm going to dive into how that affected my search real shortly after I finish this point. But I wanted to come back around and do a part two. All that to say, I wanted to do a part two because while we're championing and advocating for therapy, and we're like, yeah, therapy, woo, go get it. We don't have a real transparent discussion as to why more people are not in therapy. So it is more accessible than it used to be at one point in time. It is more acceptable and more embraced than it used to be in prior generations, but it's still, I feel, not where it should be. For as much as we on here hollering about getting therapy, I feel like it should be like getting a primary care physician at this point. Like, you know, like it should be like I could just reach out and pretty much like grab it, you know, but we're not there yet. And so I kind of did a dive. I didn't dive as deep as I could have. I'll give y'all that, because for me to dive really deep, this would have had to be like an hour-long, 2-hour-long presentation, and ain't nobody gonna really sit through that. I know attention spans are short these days, so, you know, and personally, I just don't have the time right now to like do that deep dive. But in the research that I did do, I have 3 main points as to why I believe that therapy is still inaccessible, even though it's a necessity. So hence the title of the video, the inaccessibility and necessity of therapy, because it is a must, you know. And this is my main point. If you're watching the replay, or even if you're here now, you're like, okay, I got to go. Like, I'm going to come back and listen to the rest. The main point of all this is therapy is a necessary resource for majority, if not all adults. I believe all, but if not all, definitely majority. But as embraced as therapy is nowadays, it's still not as accessible as it should be. And that's a problem to me. And so that's the main point. And I'm going to break down in 3 further points and whatnot. And then we're going to go from there. So point number 1, and this is probably going to be the longest point, because this is where most of my numbers and research really like led me down a rabbit hole, is therapy in this day and age is still relatively expensive. And I'm going to break it down. Okay. So when I thought about therapy, and I did some calling around and stuff like that. And this is, like I said, this year. This isn't, and honestly, the prices haven't really changed much. I feel like they've been pretty much the same since I was in Virginia to now, maybe give or take a few dollars. But when I was calling around, I realized that, excuse me, my insurance really wasn't accepted by a lot of them. And so that was like a slap in the face. Hey, Yasmin, my sister's graduation is streaming, so I'm not in the chat. It's okay. I always appreciate you being here, and congrats to your sister for graduating. I hope that she is enjoying the day and that she gets many, many more blessings and abundance. But I'm glad that you are here and you have me streaming. And so I started calling around, and I was just like, okay, so you guys don't take my insurance. It's probably not that bad. Like, how much is it? And so they were like starting at $150 per session. Like, these are all the in-person places I called. And so I was like, dang, $150 per session. Like, if I got to go once a week, and sometimes you got to go more than once a week, depending on what the issue is. But I was like, yes, I cannot wait to have that conversation with Priscilla about bipolar disorder. I think that's going to shed a lot of light that a lot of us need to know, because I just don't know a lot about it. And I really want to hear from someone living with it. So that's going to be great on Thursday. And so they were like, yeah, $100 per, $100. I didn't even get that. I got $150. But I was just like, what in the, like, if I got to go once a week, that's what, $150, $600 a month, you know? And if I got to go twice a week, like, that's $1,200 a month. Ain't nobody got the time or the funds for that. I'm sorry. Cause like I said, I'm self-employed, but even if I had a job, like, you know, with the bills and all that kind of stuff and cost of living right now, which I'm gonna dive into in a second, that would not have been feasible. And so then I started thinking, I was just like, well, dang, like, if this is, because technically I was calling them as an uninsured person, it's very wild, Michelle. But I was like, with the insurance, like, I'm guessing the copay would have been, you would have just paid the copay, which would be like $20 to $40, you know, per session, which, I mean, depending on where you are in your life, that could still be a hit. Like, that could still be like, okay, I don't even really have that, you know. And if you got to go, well, $20 a copay once a week, $80 a month, that's not too bad. But $40 is $160 a month, and if you're going twice a week, that's $160 to $320 a month. So it's like, you know, no matter how you slice it or dice it, depending on your income, depending on your expenses and all this other stuff going on, it can still be a lot. And so then I was like, well, I wonder how many uninsured adults are in the US. So I'm going to read off some stats. This point is really number heavy, so bear with me. But I feel like the numbers help to make this point. So in the US, the working age of adults that are uninsured are 27.5 million adults. So there are 27.5 million adults who are working age in the US who are uninsured. So you can already imagine the fact that they're uninsured means that more than likely they either are not working or they're underemployed, because a lot of people lost their jobs over the past 2 years, two years plus with the pandemic. And so, excuse me, that threw a lot of people into the uninsured bracket. And so with that, a lot of them applied for Medicaid, and they did get it at that time because there was a lot of pandemic assistance, and a lot of the hoops that you would have to jump through normally to get these benefits were removed. Like they weren't, doing all that vetting and stuff like that. And so just over 38 million US adults are on Medicaid currently. However, about 15 million of them, because pandemic assistance has now ended, and if it hasn't fully ended, it's really ending at this point, are about to be back uninsured. So that's going to be like 23 million. All of these are averages for the most part, because it was hard to pinpoint like exact numbers. So for the most part, they're averages. Bear with me, it might be a little off, because the internet, it's hard to pinpoint exact numbers sometimes. So those 15 million people that are about to be uninsured, if they're not already, when they get off of Medicaid and they're underemployed, let's say they're underemployed, or they're not employed, because just because you're unemployed, it doesn't mean you get Medicaid. Because I've been in that boat too, and so have some of my relatives, where it's just like you don't have a job, but you apply for Medicaid and you don't get it. I don't know all the hoops and all the requirements as to why or how they determine who gets it and who doesn't. But I know for me, when I'm on it, I usually get it because of my pre-existing medical conditions. They require a lot of monitoring. So I'm going to guess that that's one of the reasons why they're like, okay, well, go ahead and grant it to you. But I know people where it's like, yeah, I applied, but all they gave me was like family planning or like limited insurance. And so you might as well not have insurance. I mean, to be honest with you, because it's like anything else you go for that's not family planning, you're going to have to pay out of pocket. And that's why a lot of people don't have a doctor. That's why a lot of people don't go to the doctor, because all of that racks up and it affects your credit too. And so while people were losing their jobs and they were also losing their insurance to go that came with the job, the cases of mental illness in this country were increasing 6 times as much during the pandemic. So you got people losing jobs in droves, losing health insurance, mental illness, primarily, like I said, anxiety and depression, but other ones too are going up by 6 times more than they were even just in 2019 and 2018. And this is all happening in conjunction with job loss, drastic life changes, financial strain, relationship strain, so I would assume that those are also making the mental illnesses worse, because now it's like you already felt like you needed the therapy. You already felt like you needed the professional help. And now you can't get it when you try to get it. So now you fall deeper into a depression. Now you get more anxious. Now you start to feel even worse. Now it affects you, in so many different ways. Yes, it's so hard. You're still living under the poverty line, but aren't eligible for Medicaid. Right. And it's just like, how do y'all determine this? Like, it makes no sense to me. And even as an adult, the Medicaid isn't all inclusive. Like, you don't get dental. Like, okay, you're going to check my body, but not my teeth. Like, my teeth are just as important, especially if I'm having children, if I have had children, childbirth affects your dental health. And so it's just like the kids get that, but I don't get, so I could get a doctor. Excuse me, y'all. I can get a doctor, but I can't get my teeth clean. I can't get a cavity pulled out. Like, and then when you got to pay for all this stuff out of pocket, this is why people don't go. Like, for years, I'll be transparent. I didn't go to the dentist because I didn't have dental insurance. So it's just like, why am I going? Because I'm going to pay out of pocket. Can't afford it. Okay, I cannot afford it right now. So guess what? I'm going to just do the little home whitening kits and the old-fashioned remedies and call it a day. Like, that's just what we're gonna do. If I have a really, really serious tooth problem, sure, I'll go. But anything else, it's Oragel, home remedy it up and keep it pushing, And so the amount of uninsured adults has increased since the pandemic, like I said, because the increase in job loss. And as a result, we now have more, like 15 million more people on Medicaid, but those 15 million are about to be uninsured. And so now they're going to be in that bunch that are pretty much, you can say, underneath poverty line. I mean, you're unemployed, uninsured, like, and then it affects you when you're uninsured too. It's a penalty, at least last time I checked, on your taxes. So don't quote me on that part. But you're getting hit from all angles. Like, you're already unemployed, you're uninsured. Now you're having to deal with this, that, the third, and all that kind of stuff. And so when I looked it up, the average therapy session in the US costs $100 to $200. So like we were saying, 100, 150, 200. And so that's anywhere from $400 to $800 per month, going once a week just to seek the help that you need. But it's really not helping, because now, like, yeah, you pay for it, but imagine if you're one of those people that's unemployed or underemployed, because the working poor is very prevalent in this country. So you have a job, but it's not enough to cover the cost of living. So you bite the bullet, you say, okay, I'm gonna just go ahead, get this therapy, why not? I'm already too broke anyway, so I might as well take a risk. And you're in the therapy session, but you can't even really take a load off and really just get the mental peace that you need. Because in the back of your mind, you're thinking about, well, I just had to rob Peter to pay Paul to come to this so I could try to get help, but I still gotta pay, Peter. Like, like I robbed him to pay Paul. So how are the ends gonna meet? Like, how is this all gonna work out? So you're constantly in this hamster wheel of trying to make ends meet, trying to pull something from over here to cover your behind, and then going over here and trying to cover this and that and the third. The debt is racking up. Ain't nobody cares. Everybody wants their money. And it's just a cycle. It's like you're going down a downward spiral, basically. And so in recent years, there's been an increase in online therapy. But I called, and they don't take insurance anyway. So even if you have insurance, you're going to operate as if you don't have insurance, using like BetterHelp and stuff like that. And the average session for those is $40 to $70 per week, which puts you, excuse me, at $160 to $280 per month. And again, that's if you're going once a week. So this is all, as you can see, just racking up another bill. And Medicaid isn't always accepted for therapy, like I said, because, and not to mention the brochures are really outdated. Like, when I was on Medicaid and stuff like that, I would look in the brochures for all types of providers, and I'd be like, okay, they say they work with this person, they say they work with that person, but you call and they're like, oh yeah, we don't work with Medicaid anymore, or we don't work with that version of Medicaid. Because you can have like the regular state Medicaid, or what I've seen a lot of them doing, especially in recent years, is you get Medicaid, but you choose a particular provider under that Medicaid. So in Virginia, I was with I forgot the name of that insurance. I forgot, but it was very prevalent in Virginia. I was under them. And then like in Georgia, you got like CareSource, you got Peach State, like, so you're with someone just on their Medicaid sector, but a lot of them don't work with Medicaid, so when you call, it's just like, oh, we don't take it. Oh, we don't take it. Or they used to take it and they don't take it anymore. Because honestly, when you're on Medicaid, you don't pay co-pays. Like you go, so I'm sure on their end, they're probably losing money, or it's a hassle to work with Medicaid. I don't know, again, all the nooks and crannies from the professional side, but you would often hear them say they don't work with this. So now you're scouring the brochure, you're looking to find somebody, you can't find anybody. And then the one or two people in your area that do take Medicaid, it's just like, excuse me, they're booked up. Because that happened to me too. Finally found somebody I like, and then I call her and I'm just like, oh, you got openings? And especially after the pandemic, I can imagine. Okay. And she was just like, oh, nah, I don't, I don't have any openings. I don't know when I'm going to have any. And this is in Virginia. Down here, I found someone I like, and yeah, it was pretty much the same thing. She was like, I'm gonna have to get back to you. She never got back to me. So I'm assuming like she just didn't have any openings. But it's just like, it's really a hassle. That has happened to me so much. The provider's website says the insurance is a network, and when you call, they don't take it. Right. And it's so annoying because like now you got to do a whole other research. It's like, where's Waldo? Like you're trying to just find a needle in a haystack. Like, can anybody work with me here? Okay. And all of this is stressing you out. And it's like making the problem worse. I'm trying to ease my mental health problems, and it's exacerbating it. Like I need to find some help. And I don't know where I'm going to find this help. Like, and so therapy, when you break all this down and you look at it, it's still very expensive and inaccessible. And then to piggyback off of point number one, point number two is cost of living has increased, and so has people's debts. Okay. Because let's just be honest. Like if you lose your job, Well, if you're underemployed, 9 times out of 10, you've been had debt, okay? Because you robbing Peter to pay Paul is a lifestyle for you. Like you got to do what you got to do. But if you lose your job and let's say you were decent, maybe you weren't literally waiting paycheck to paycheck. Maybe you had a little wiggle room, just a little, just enough, and you lose your job. Now it's like you are going into debt because now to survive, you're probably using your credit cards to pay bills. You're hoping that you find a job or some sorts of income before the credit card bill starts to rack up to a point where it's insurmountable. You're borrowing money from family and friends. You're taking out payday loans, which a lot of states have canceled since Obama was in office. They got rid of a lot of them because that's how a lot of people were living. Like, y'all know I'm transparent. So my family done been there, done that, where we had to go to in Virginia was Ace Cash Express. And you would go and you could get up to $500. And so all three of us or four of us would go and get whatever we can get to cover the bills because we were down that bad. And then when you're retired, you have, I think, 2 months to pay it back. When you're working, you have a month to pay it back or whatever. But the sooner you pay it back, the less the interest. And when I tell you at this point in time, when we were going there, the Ace in that location used to be full. Like the line used to be to the back of the store. And that was a pretty big store. And so many people were in there just trying to get $400 or $500, $300 to cover the rent or cover bills. Like, and then they would be like, okay, when I get paid, I'll pay it back. And then I'll come back and take it out. And once you paid on time, you could keep going back. But I think after a couple of times or a couple of months, you had to take a break. And so it's like now you're just, again, robbing Peter, pay Paul, you're in this hole. Joseph has Medicaid, and this same thing happened with his occupational therapy. We had to go all the way to Peachtree Corners, which is 25 minutes from my house. Yeah, that's the same with Christian. Christian has Medicaid right now, and we go 27 minutes to Lithia Springs for his speech therapy. And it was them, or it was another one, which is like 15, 20 minutes from my house, called McKenna Farms. But I liked this one because, I'm particular about who works with me, but we gonna get there. That's point number 3. That's point number 3. Yes, deep in debt folks are making $15 an hour with rent. Yes, okay, like that is this point. I'm diving into it. So cost of living is ridiculous. So it's like you were already underemployed, or now you're unemployed. You're robbing Peter to pay Paul. You're living off credit cards. If you have some, because not everybody has credit cards, or they do, but it's not enough to make a dent. Like if you got a $200-300 credit card, that's not good. A $200-300 credit card, that's not enough to make a dent. But if you got like, thousands of dollars, because sometimes when people are working, they maintain their life, their credit, and they get these big limits. Now you're living off of it, and it starts to go left real quick, and then it affects your credit, which essentially is going, because your debt has increased now. So now your credit is being affected, and then that affects your ability to just even maintain, like, because credit literally rules your life. Like people look at your credit for everything, for jobs, for housing, for cars, for insurance, for everything. They look at your credit, and they don't care if it's like, okay, this happened during the pandemic, because that was another thing too that a lot of people were talking about, how some states didn't have a blanket moratorium to stop creditors from basically racking up interest and charging you more on your bills, or continuing to charge you on your bills when there was an international pandemic. Because it's like, if I'm not working or I'm underemployed, I can't get to work as much because now things are shut down or whatever, and I don't have a salary job where I could work at home, I'm losing hours, I'm losing pay. There's no moratorium, there's no, protections in place to make sure that my landlord can't kick me out, my utilities can't be cut off, or whatever the case may be, because every state's different in how they did it or whatever. And so now I'm trying to keep things afloat, but even if they do a payment arrangement with me, it's still racking up all this interest, it's still racking up all this stuff. So even though for the moment you have that breather, on the back end, it's going to bite you in the behind. Okay. Because now you got this huge mountain behind you that you had to basically do because you didn't have a choice at the moment. And now that you're slowly but surely seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, you're trying to get out of that hole. You're not able to get out of it. And that's how you end up in a cycle of poverty. Okay. This is how the system is designed to keep you poor. Like real talk, Can't get too real on YouTube before they shut me down, but I'm about to say 25 miles. It took us 45 minutes to get there. Hooch, how? That is like, and these Georgia miles are long miles, because a mile in Georgia be taking me like 5 minutes. Okay, a mile in Virginia used to take me like a minute, maybe 2 minutes, but these miles are spread out in Georgia, so that is a good distance. Not to mention the traffic. Like it seemed too much, So when I was looking at or thinking about the cost of living in America, I was like, okay, I gotta get numbers because we all know the cost of living is too much. Like we all know this, unless you've been living under a rock or unless you've been balling like that since forever, and this doesn't affect you. But we all can say, yeah, it's a little tight. You know, I'm like up to here. Some of us are right here. Okay, any sudden movements and we're underwater. And so I was like, what's the average annual salary? And so this was one that was really hard to pinpoint. But I found two sites that I trust a lot, and one of them is Fred Economic Data, and then the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. And so, taking both of their numbers, the average salary in the U.S. is anywhere between $35,977 a year to $58,260 a year. And this is gross, y'all. Okay, we haven't even hit nets, which means all the taxes, all those benefits, if you have them, come out, right? And so when I went ahead and broke down the higher number because I was like, I don't even want to know what the lower number is going to look like after tax. Like, that's depressing, right? So I was like, let's break down the higher number. But just imagine this at the $35,977 level, okay? But this is with the $58,260 level. And I was like, okay, let me break down, like, just the average taxes and stuff and, you know, whatnot. And so I Googled it. And on average, after taxes, and this is all for a single person, after taxes, if you're making $58,260 a year, your average salary would be $43,000. It's depending on what you're taking out, you know, how much you're putting aside for this or how much you got to pay for that. It could be as low as 40,000. It could be higher. It could be 48, 47. It all depends. But around 43 was the standard that I saw. That's truly how I felt about my car. The interest I'm paying is real. Okay, listen, like they get you because then that's how people end up staying in poverty because it's like you need, like, what do I do? My back is up against the wall. I need transportation because this is not a public transportation state. It's not like if we were in New York or even DC is pretty good with public transportation. You're going to feel it a little bit more than New York, but you can make ends meet. You could get to the metro. You could take the bus. Like I survived for years without a car in DC and in New York and places like that. Like you don't need a car for real, for real. You can literally like just go and live your life without a car. And here you need it. So they get you like that, you know, and then the insurance down here is more expensive because the mileage per year, the average mileage per year is more than in bigger condensed cities. And the accident rate is a little higher down here too. So I'm paying more on average, or not yet, but I will be paying more on average for insurance than I did in the DMV, you know, and all of this affects you because they know where are you going to go without a car in Georgia? Like, where are you going? you need a car, okay? Because even Uber is expensive. It's crazy. And so when I broke down to the 43,000 average salary per year, for a single person, and again, it could vary depending on tax filings and responsibilities and all that kind of stuff. That means that your average monthly pay is $35,083. So, I mean, 35,000, child, 3,000. Let's bring that down. $3,583. I wish it was 35,000. Okay, this wouldn't even be a conversation. But that means that for the average single person in the U.S., their average monthly salary after taxes is $3,583. Now, someone might hear that and be like, "Man, that is great." But again, we got to look at cost of living, and these are all averages that I'm listing out. So as I'm saying these numbers, think about your city where you live. Think about other cities that you've heard of. These averages, I would say, are probably even a little low because these numbers were pulled from a research study that was done. I want to say either not the Census Bureau. It was one of those other sites that does statistics. That's their thing. They're known for that. And these numbers were pulled in 2020. And I believe they might have been pulled earlier in 2020. So I would venture to say that if they did another research study now, these numbers will be higher. But needless to say, we just gonna say these numbers. And so the average cost of living expenses for a single person in the US is $33,189. And so you might hear that and you might say, okay, that's just under $400 left per month. Free money to go get therapy or whatever. But you got to also look at debt that people have. You know, the average car note is $554 per month in the U.S. Student loans, the average student loan payment is $393 per month in the U.S. The average rent is just over $1,400 per month. But again, if you, depending on what city you're in, that could be $1,800. Depending on which part of the city you live in, that could be $2,000. That could be $2,300. Like I know people in Atlanta. Okay, Atlanta has gone up a lot in its price and its cost of living. I know people even in Atlanta, but definitely in DC, that are paying $2,300 for a one bedroom, $2,500 for a one bedroom, $1,800 for a one bedroom. And it's just like, like, yeah, the pay might be more, but you're paying more in rent. You're paying more in your car note, because most people that I know these days pay at least $300 a month for a car. Like I don't, a car that they just bought. I'm not talking a car that they've had for a while. Like at least $300 a month on a car note. I don't know anyone paying less than that. My brother and his girlfriend pay less, but they went around the dealership. Like they went and got their loan through the credit union and stuff like that. And honestly, I'm probably going to take a route like that too, or use the car broker, an independent car broker, because it works out cheaper. But you just gotta know trusted people. Yeah, Atlanta is not cheap. Like, this ain't Atlanta from 10 years ago. Okay, when I came to visit my family, the first time I came to Atlanta was 2006, I think. It was way cheaper back then. I was like, okay, Atlanta. And then when I came to visit my best friend at the time in 2013, it was still pretty cheap. I remember being like, okay, like this is where you live? All right. Because she was living in like Dunwoody. And she had a two bedroom, was it two bedroom, two bath? No, it was a two bedroom, 1.5 bath. And she was paying less than me. I was paying $1,200 a month for a one bedroom, one bath in Alexandria, Virginia, right outside DC. And I want to say she was paying like $1,000 or something like that. It was something where I was like, dang, like you only paying that for this? And it was new, like it was new, nice. I think the MARTA was right behind. Yeah, the MARTA was right behind where she was at. It was a gated community. I was like, dang, like I need to move to Atlanta, because that was 10 years ago. No, that was 9 years ago. Michael went to an independent car broker and his car note was under 300. Yes, like that's what I'm gonna do, because I got one of my older cars, 460. Yeah, like a lot of people I know, at least 300. An older van that I had when I was giving birth to Christian, I went through a friend of mine who brokers cars, and he went to bat. Okay, he went to the auction. He was like, "What you need?" And he did it all for us. So I'm gonna either use him, or my brother knows like 2 other people, and I'm gonna just do it that way, because ain't nobody got the time. Like these dealerships are ridiculous, and the interest rates, if your credit ain't A1, they're going to kill you with the interest rates. And so you got to look at all that, but rent ain't what it used to be. Groceries alone, because the average grocery bill for a single person in the U.S. is anywhere from $200 to $400 or something like that. When I calculated it out, the average is about $324 per month, and I believe it, because my family, we spend over $600 a month in groceries, y'all. Like it's no joke, because we can't eat anything. Like I said, I have pre-existing health conditions. My mom has health conditions. She's diabetic and stuff. We can't just be eating ramen and hot dogs. Like I got a child, so we already have to eat an elevated diet, because we have to eat certain things that are very healthy, which automatically is going to make us skyrocket, because it's going to hurt us more in the back end. Like, yes, if we say, okay, we're going to buy really cheap food, now our A1C is out of control. Now we need surgery. Now we need insulin and expensive medicine. So it's like you got to eat healthy. Like we don't have a choice, literally, because of our health conditions. But even if we didn't have health conditions, like before I had these issues, I still used to eat pretty healthy. But now I have to. Like I have a very strict diet for the most part, and I have a child, so I'm not going to feed him ramen and hot dogs. I mean, come on, like you got to eat healthy. You got to eat a balanced diet. And so our grocery bill has gone up. Like I feel it. Okay, before the pandemic, we were spending, we could get by on like $375, $400 a month. It would have been tight though, and we would have been eating nothing but chicken drumsticks and maybe a leg quarter here or there. So it would have been a lavish diet, but we could have made it work. Like if ends were tight, we'd be like, okay, like we could do $375, $400, but now that's not going to cut it. That's not even the fruit alone, like, because my family is 4 of us, and so we eat fruit every day. My mom makes a fruit bowl, so we eat oranges, grapefruit, lemons, apples, and sometimes we'll do like kiwi and stuff like that, avocado, whatnot. But we eat at least 34 fruits a day, every single day. Clementines, and just a bag of oranges that I buy to stretch, because it's 4 people, it's 7 days in a week. Okay, so that's 28 oranges in a week to eat healthy. And this is eating healthy. We're trying to eat healthy. We're trying to live our best lives. Okay, our best healthy lives. And the 8-pound bag of oranges that I buy, even at stores like Lidl and Aldi that are cheaper, it's like $9 for that bag. So you do the math. That bag got like 12, maybe 16 oranges, depending on how big they are. And I try to buy for like 2 weeks. So you do the math. That's just oranges, okay? That's not grapefruit. And depending on where you go, you might have to pay more for grapefruit because it depends on if it's in season or not. Lemons, all these things, avocado, and all these things, they rack up, you know? Even lettuce, like, you know, it's really crazy. So the grocery bill and all these things is really expensive. And so when you look at the cost of living and the average income being less than 50K, sometimes depending on where you look, and you calculate less than 40K, who's paying for therapy? Okay, am I gonna eat or am I gonna go see a therapist? I'm gonna eat, and then I'm gonna self-loathe, and I'm gonna figure out a way to get around the therapy bill because it's too much. It's way too much. And personally, I don't understand why therapy can't be included in our primary care. Like, again, I don't know all the ins and outs of how they work the insurance and premiums and this and that and the third, but I really would want to know, like, why isn't it included? I feel like we should have at least like how you have your annual physical, you know, you have your, or you're supposed to have your annual or semi-annual dental visit or whatever the case may be. I feel like there should at least be like 1 or 2 sessions of therapy included in that. Like, I feel like that's the bare minimum. Like, why is this not accessible? As much as we pay for insurance, like I remember when I was working, I was like, dang, when I was working in the government, I had a PPO. So, you know, your girl was living large. And so I looked at how much came out my check, especially being single with no kids. I was like, dang, I paid this for insurance, you know? And when I was on Medicaid, like I said, I didn't have to pay copays or anything. So that was all state covered. And insurance now is like, you know, it could range anywhere in my field, being self-employed. If you go through Lyft or Uber, it could be anywhere from $30 to like $60 a month if you use their insurance with Stride and you partner with one of those people. But you know, it still can be quite a bit, you know. So when you look at the grander scheme of things, we gotta survive. We got other things. You gotta have internet. I didn't even calculate internet because most people are gonna have internet these days. Cable is hit or miss. You know, we don't have cable. We just have smart TVs in my house, but I feel like the internet bill is at almost $200, y'all. Like, I really feel like it's something crazy like that. Cell phones, my family and I have been on T-Mobile for years. Like, my first cell phone in 2003 was a T-Mobile phone, and I've been with other companies in between there, AT&T and Sprint. We were on Sprint, but Sprint got bought over by T-Mobile, so now we're back on T-Mobile. Our bill cost us like $270 something a month for 3 phones. And it went down because we just finished paying for my phone or something like that, I think. And yeah, we just finished paying for my phone because mine was the most expensive out of everybody's. And before that, it was like 3 something. It was in the mid 3s every single month. So you gotta have a cell phone, okay? I make money from my cell phone. That's how I earn majority of my income from my cell phone. And so gotta have internet because I gotta work. I gotta do these live streams. My sister gotta work, okay? My son's about to start school with the co-op, you know, so he gotta have a tablet, a laptop, something for the days that he's not actually on site. You know, like these are things that you need. Like, yes, you can say they're luxury items, but is internet really a luxury at this point? Like, you need it. Who's going to the library to get something done? I know I'm not. As for me and my house, we're gonna have internet. So, you know, when you rack up all this stuff and the cost of living with these salaries, listen, therapy is still a luxury item. Like, we can sit here and holler about getting therapy all day, but if I gotta choose between eating and clothing myself and seeing a therapist, I'm gonna choose eating and clothing myself for 100. Okay, for 100, Alex, that's what I'm choosing. Because no, like, you can't. Gotta have a car where I live. You know, maybe if I lived in a state where I could have said, all right, I'll let the car just go, I can do that. But nah, like, I gotta have transportation, like all these things rack up. So therapy is still very much a luxury because the salaries are still really sad. The salaries are really sad. Like, why are people still making $30,000 a year? Why are people, grown adults, still getting paid, you know, $12 an hour, $15? Like, what? I was making more than that as an intern when I worked in the STEP program in the government. It's not a program anymore. They stopped it. But I got in making like $26,000 a year, working pretty much part-time because they had to work around my schedule as a college student. So it's just like, what? Like, who's surviving off of that? Who's surviving off of that? Like, and let's not even talk about gasoline. I didn't even calculate all that. Like, when you really sit and think about how much it costs, because again, the further away you live from stuff, the more you got to pay in gas. It's like, you know, darned if you do, darned if you don't. Because if you live in the city, you're going to pay more in rent and all those kind of things. But if you live out in the outskirts, you're going to pay more in gas. And with gas now back to being over $4 a gallon down here, at least in my neighborhood. I can't speak for everywhere, but I was out earlier and it was like 409 a gallon. I think the cheapest I've seen was like 398, and that was like at a Sam's Club or something like that. So, it's too much, and we got to find some sort of middle ground. And I would, like I said, if anybody out there understands how health insurance companies, figure out what's included, what's not included and stuff. I really want to know, why isn't therapy included in our benefits, in our benefits package? Like, it's a part of your health. Your mental health is a part of your health. So why isn't that included? Can it be included? Is it something where it's like, it's a lobbyist issue? Like, what is the problem? Like, why is this not included? Barely surviving. Okay. And imagine making 30K per year. Listen, and the fact that even the threshold that they have to get benefits, like when I look at the benefits or the threshold, I mean, for like food stamps and Medicaid and all that kind of stuff, like a family of 4 got to be under 30K or something. Like, it's something crazy like that, where it's like a family of 4 under 30K. Like, if that's the case, I need housing, I need food, I need healthcare, I need everything. Like, I can't afford anything at that point. That's a lot. That is a lot. Like, rent down here, prime example, when we moved into this house, our rent was $16.90. And so we were like, oh, this is a steal, because a house like this, brand spanking new in the DMV, back then when we moved here in 2019, you were not going to pay less than about $2,300. And that was really teetering on the line, depending on where you're at, because some counties are more than others. Like, if you're in Fairfax County, you're going to pay more than Prince William County. If you're in Prince William, you're going to pay less than Loudoun County. Like, it just depends on where you're at. PG County versus Montgomery, et cetera, et cetera. But now this same house, our rent is $2,075. So it's gone up $400 in less than 3 years. Okay. Like, this November will make 3 years since we've lived in here. So it's gone up about $400 since November 2019. Make it make sense. Like, and that's the norm. Like, these people that I talked to after the pandemic, everyone's like, yeah, my rent went up by $300, $500, $250, $500 or $400. Like, it's ridiculous. For that government assistance, they want you to be basically homeless, right? And they be on you. Okay, they're like, if you even make $10 over, we're snatching it away. And it's just like, dang, like, and I feel bad for all the people that lost not only Medicaid, but also food stamps after the pandemic. I really feel bad for them, because it's just like, man, when you get used to that and you're like, this is really helping me out, and then it's snatched away and now everything has gone up, and the moratoriums are gone, you're having to pay back all this stuff, all the interest, like I mentioned earlier in the live, it really starts to affect you. So, that's another reason why therapy, I believe, is still inaccessible, because it's like the cost of living to survive in this country is ridiculous. Like, when I talk to, and I have relatives in other countries, so I'm speaking as someone who has seen life in other countries, know what people pay to survive in other countries. And yes, okay, we can get into the conversation about third world versus first world and this, that, the third. But I'm going to just keep it real with you. I have family in countries that are considered third world. Like, you guys may or may not know, my family's from Guyana, South America. But Guyana is developing. Okay. Like, my cousin the other day sent me a brochure for condos in Guyana. And granted, when you look at the prices, it's a little sticker shocking, because the exchange rate for a Guyanese dollar to a US dollar is 200 to 1. So $1 equals 200 Guyanese dollars. But, so it's not abnormal to see housing prices in the millions and stuff like that. And when you're thinking US, you're like, what? 9 million for this? But when you calculate it, you're like, dang, that's cheap. Like, for this, I would pay double or triple as much in the US for this luxurious living, gated community, all inclusive, brand spanking new, killer view. Like, you would pay a lot. You would pay double or triple as much. And Guyana is in the middle of really just turning over to, I would say, at least being a second world country and not third world so much, because that's a whole other conversation for another day about the oil deals with the government and all that kind of stuff. And it's just bringing a lot of expats there. So by the year, it was originally slated to be 2025, but with the pandemic, I feel like it's going to be closer to 2030. But either way, in the next 2 years, Guyana is going to be like the next Dubai. Like, that's basically what the country looks like. I remember being there in 2017, Christmas into 2018 New Year's, and I saw a whole bunch of foreigners there. And it was just like, Guyana's always had multiple ethnic groups. Like, majority of the country is actually of Indian descent, like from India. And then the second biggest group are the African descent, and then the mixed group and Portuguese, Chinese, Arabic, all that kind of stuff. Caucasian, etc., and the Amerindians, the indigenous people. But I remember seeing people that I know are not from Guyana. Like you can hear their accent, and even though they might fit into one of the ethnic groups that was already in Guyana, you know they're not from. Like you can just tell when someone is from there, when they live there, when they don't, and even before they open their mouth. And I was like, dang, like I'm seeing a lot of foreigners here, and that's not a country where you would typically see a lot of foreigners when I was growing up. And so my cousins are like, yeah, like, you know, they just got this oil deal. And a lot of people going to be companies coming from other countries, rebuilding back because Guyana used to really have a lot of foreign companies. And then they left, you know, in the 80s. And I'm not going to get into all the nitty gritty of the politics, but needless to say, a lot of those companies that left are now coming back. A lot of those opportunities that were once gone are now coming back. There's a lot of building, a lot of developing, a lot of enhancing and growth, but it's still very affordable. Like, let me put this into perspective for you, okay? And then we'll go to the third point. My aunt, one of my aunts, because I have a big family, and a lot of them are still in Guyana, but I have family in Trinidad, Antigua, St. Lucia, et cetera, et cetera. She is the second in command, I believe, for what would be the equivalent of like the Department of Education here. And so any school that operates in the country, whether it's a private school, government run, whatever, has to basically go through her. She has to approve it, and et cetera, et cetera. If I'm jacking up your job, auntie, my bad. I don't know. It's a great, but I know that that's like, you know, the point of what she does. And she makes a fraction of what my parents make on retirements. Okay. And she probably makes the equivalent of what someone working a retail job here makes, I would say. Yeah. Yeah, I would say like a retail job or a very, very entry level office job. And she gets paid once a month because that's the standard in Guyana. She lives in a big house that has 1, 2, 3, I believe 6 bedrooms, 4 or 5 baths. It's on at least a third or half acre of land because she's got fruit trees in the back. She raises chickens and her husband and her sell them on the side. They got like 2 or 3 vehicles, and one of them he runs a taxi business with. And then they sell like fruit juice and just all sorts of stuff. And they're living nice. Okay. She's not hand to mouth. Like it's not a struggle. She's not like, oh my gosh, like I don't know what I'm gonna eat. And mind you, they're eating fresh foods because, like I said, they grow some in their yard. And then the market in Guyana, like while they have Americanized grocery stores and stuff now, a lot of people still go to the outdoor market, which is Stybroke Market, you know, where they have the fresh, like homegrown produce, like farmers coming and selling their stuff right there. You could drive through, say, give me the lettuce, give me this, give me that, the eggs, you know, whatever. And they go home and they eat it, the fresh baked bread. Okay. Like a lot of people still go to those local mom and pop or local farmer places and get their food. And she's eating good. Okay. She could travel. She got multiple cars, a big old house. Like her house is big enough that when we were there in 2017, it was 17 people in the house. 17 people in the house. We were not in each other's way at all. Like we had space to not see people if we didn't want to. Like I didn't have to see my cousins if I didn't want to. I didn't have to speak to my aunts and uncles if I didn't want to. If I wanted to just be in a corner by myself, I could do that. Like, you know, and we were enjoying ourselves. There was enough food to go around. I did not starve. Okay. Like your girl was getting her best life. I was kind of sick on that trip though, but I think it was the holiday foods mixed with, like, you know, when you're not used to eating fresh foods and then you go and you get all this fresh, it can affect you. But I still was eating stuff that here would have made me gain weight. I lost weight eating it there because the quality of the food is that much better. And so the cost of living is so much cheaper. And when I talk to my relatives overseas and I tell them how much it costs to live here, they're like, dang. And they're not as stressed. Okay, let me tell you this. It's not that mental health issues don't exist in those countries. They very much do. But the lifestyle, generally speaking, is way less stressful. It's less hustle bustle. It's less robbing Peter to pay Paul. It's more communal. Like you can tell that I'm from the States when I'm back home, when I'm in these countries, because it's just like I'm on edge. I'm always like, we got to do something, and they're just like, relax. Like, you know, even their rush hour isn't as stressful as here. Like I've been out and about in the Caribbean during rush hour, and I'm like, this is it. Like people are like in a rush, but it's still like chill and laid back. It's so much more chill, y'all. Like it's definitely not as stressful as here. It's a different culture, a different life. And so, you know, all of these things combined, just trying to survive, trying to make ends meet and stuff, therapy is going to be on the back burner. So even though you might have some money left over in the perfect world scenario, that $300 something left that I had said, because the average living cost for a US working adult is $31.89 and the average monthly pay is about $35.83. I mean, think realistically, think debts, think like extra bills that I didn't name, children, et cetera, et cetera. So the last point, and then we'll be done. I said I'm not gonna be long, and it's still approaching an hour, y'all. I be talking too much, but this is this is the last point. So I think therapy still has a level of inaccessibility because it's still like a lack of therapists that fit specific needs. And so when I thought of this point, I specifically am speaking like those of us who are in the faith, Christians, believers. Just in my research, when I was personally looking a couple years ago and earlier this year, it's still a little difficult to find a therapist that is of the faith because these are the type of things that you would prefer because when I'm getting into speaking about stuff and I'm like, the Holy Spirit, gave me an unction and this and that. I don't want someone to be like, okay, she's having hallucinations. She's like, I want someone to understand where my foundation, my worldview is coming from, so that they can guide me accordingly. And then if you want a therapist who might have been through or have experience with dealing with people who have been through some of the things you've been through, the more specific you get, the harder it gets to find someone. Hey, CW, hello, hello. The harder it gets to find someone, So for me, I'm going to just be frank. Okay. I prefer someone, like I said, who is a Christian or, believes in those foundational principles. I prefer a woman of color. Okay. I prefer a woman who is used to dealing with single mothers. So the more intricate you get, it's like the less availability there is. And even though there are, because I looked this up, there are 106,000 106,000 licensed therapists/psychologists throughout the US. It's not evenly distributed. So you might hear that and be like, wow, that's a lot. Like, we all can get therapy, which I mean, technically we can. And like I said, I feel like it should be included in our primary care and our healthcare because it is a part of our health. It's not evenly distributed. So there are some counties in the US that have zero, none. Okay. And there are some counties in the US that have as much as 3,600. So obviously, if you live in a county or area that has more accessibility, you have more options. But even for me, when I was looking, like I said, based on my insurance, even in Atlanta, that's a pretty large metropolitan area, it still was hard because when I narrowed it down, I was like, okay, I want a woman of color. I want someone who is Christian. And there was some other parameter I had put in on my insurance brochure site or whatever. Only like one woman popped up within like a 50-mile radius. Like, I'm so serious, y'all. It was like, and if it wasn't 50, it was 30. It was either a 30-mile or 50-mile radius, but it was enough for me to be like, dang, there's only one, And so I called her and she was like, yeah, I just don't. She was like, I work with your insurance, but I have no openings and I don't know when I'm gonna have any. And I was like, I mean, I can't even be mad because you're the only one. And I know I'm not the only one that wants to work with someone like you because I'm the type of person that when I'm looking for a physician of any sort, whether it's my primary care, OBGYN, whatever, I'm like Googling pictures. I'm trying to find reviews. I'm trying to see like, does my spirit take to you when I see your picture? Do I feel like we're going to connect? Do I feel like you're going to get on my nerves? Like, do I feel like you're going to listen to me if I say I have a problem or whatever? So I've had physicians of all walks of life, all backgrounds, all looks, shapes, sizes, etc. But I really have a knack for finding people that I connect with. Because I can say at the end of the day, all the people that I've connected with, I really have a good connection with. Like, I never felt like they weren't listening to my needs or, anything like that. So I'm going to do a deep dive. And especially with my child, I be Googling, I be looking on Facebook. I'm like, let me see if I can find their Facebook real quick. I'm doing all of that. I'm sorry. Like, I got to know who I'm going to be sitting across, who's going to be touching on me, looking at all my vitals, looking at my charts, all that kind of stuff. That's not even that much given the number of people in the world, right? In this country alone is how many, like 300 something million people. So I mean, even that, when you break it down, it's like, yeah, that's not even a lot when you think about it, especially when you're looking for a specialist. Hey, Tania, how are you, sis? As a former mental health therapist who knows what this looks like from the inside, you are correct. The disparities are real. Wow. So I have a question. I don't know if you've been listening all along, but why isn't mental health included in our primary care? Like, and I don't know if you know all of this either. Sorry if I'm like putting you on the spot, but you have like some inside scoop, so you might know more than me. Cause I really wonder about this. I'm like, our insurance is not cheap in this country. So I would think we could at least get 1 or 2 sessions. Like, why isn't it? Like, I don't know. Maybe that's something that will be included in universal health care if that passed. Like, Child, I don't know, but I really wonder about these things. I'm like, as much as we pay out, like we should get something. I feel like we should get something. At least give me 1 or 2 sessions, please. Because for me, I go to the doctor a lot. I go every 3 months because of my health conditions. So I can understand if they're like, okay, we're not gonna pay like every month. Okay, I get it. But can I get something? I do the same thing, Google them, looking on LinkedIn. Right? I'm pulling up everything. I'm like, oh, so you have a dog? Oh, wow. Like, I was looking at everything. Also, many Black women, prospective clients prefer Black women therapy. Yes, but many Black women therapists are not correct. Right. And that's the problem that I was finding because before I put in the Christian part, and was like Googling, because this wasn't on the brochure site. This was just me Googling. I was like, before I put in Christian, more came up in this area. It was actually enough that I could have had my pick of the litter for the most part. But again, like my faith is my foundation. So I don't want you to try to make me feel dumb for believing in what I believe in. I don't want you to try to minimalize it and be like, let's put that faith thing to the side because it's in tandem for me. Like they go hand in hand. I need you to bring the professional, scientific and inside stuff to my faith. Because the faith I got on lock. Like I'm gonna get in my prayer closet. Y'all can't see it, but it's on the other side of my room. I'm gonna get in my prayer closet. I'll tarry in the spirit. I'll do all that. But I need you to bring like this other part, and I don't want you to try to talk me into all this other stuff. Like, because I don't want it to turn into a debate session or awkward or passive aggressive, because then that's not helping my mental health either. Like, why am I here? What are you doing for me? It's honestly a money game. I don't know the specifics, but many areas have to fight for even the basics of medical primary care. Wow. Yeah, I could believe that. Honestly, I could believe that. Because even with one of my health conditions, I went to the doctor in January and she had prescribed a particular medication for me. And she was like, this will help you manage this issue, but also kind of get some of the others under control. She was like, I'm taking a risk putting this in. We're going to see if they approve it for you because generally they don't. And with where my chart was, where my health was, honestly, they should have approved it. Like, I was shocked that they said no. And they said no. Like, it was a back and forth. I kept going to the pharmacy and I was like, oh, my doctor sent the prescription. They're like, we don't see it, or we're putting it. It was like a back and forth for like a month and a half. And finally, I called the insurance and they were like, okay, we're going to channel it up to the higher ups or whatever. And then they sent me a letter like 2 weeks later and they're like, yeah, we are not approving this because of da 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 da. They gave some technical term, but it's really a money thing. Like you said, I definitely see that. Absolutely. And so when I told my doctor, she was like, dang, even with what I sent in, I was like, yeah, they literally sent me a letter saying no. We are not, so stop asking. She was like, that is so crazy. Because where I was at, like I said, they should have, like they honestly should have, because it was pretty bad. And they still were like, no. And I'm just like, that's so crazy to me. Like literally, it's really not even about your health. It really is about the money. And that's sad. That's very sad. And that's why a lot of people and the disparities and stuff are going to continue to not have access to mental health like they should. Because it's like, when you think about it too, think about people that are lower income. And then I'll be done, y'all, because I talk a lot. I be saying I'm not going to be on here long, and I be on here long, but y'all the real MVPs. But but when you think about people that are lower income, think of the neighborhoods that they're potentially or more than likely living in. Think of the other life stuff going on around them that's impacting their mental health. I know a lot of people who grew up in disparaged neighborhoods, like neighborhoods where you wouldn't even want to drive through during the day, let alone at night. And you're witnessing acts of violence to gang wars. You're witnessing, drug stuff going on, domestic abuse cases go up. It's just a lot, even just from your walk from your house to your school, the things that you'll witness sometimes it's like, dang, like, and so not to mention the constant fear and threats that you are faced with every single day, with the systems at play, whether that's the legal systems, whether that is the healthcare system, whether it's whatever, and so you put all these things in place and it's like, you need the mental health. You need the mental health assistance and you can't get it because you don't make enough money. And so you're back on that hamster wheel and that decision making of, do I rob Peter to pay Paul to get the mental health that I need? Do I not eat to go to therapy? And this is why people end up using their friends and family as therapy, which is then something that in fact impacts, their friends and family. Because now it's like, I can't afford a therapist, so I need someone to talk to. But the reality of the situation is people can't bear that load. I try my best to be that for people because I've been on the other side where I'm like, I legit need to talk to you, because I tried to get a therapist. I can't afford it. So I need to talk to somebody, because I'm in a very dark place right now. And I've experienced people turning on me in that moment, and it's not good. And then you feel bad because like, dang, like I'm leaning. It's literally like a cyclical effect that just, it goes round and round and round, and there's no way out. Y'all watch John Oliver on YouTube. He talks about this kind of stuff all the time. Ooh, yes. I'm gonna make a note. John Oliver. I'm gonna watch that as I go back out. But yeah, y'all. So those are, to me, the three biggest reasons why people don't go to therapy as much. So I feel like when we're having these conversations online, and it's like, get the therapy, therapy. Like, okay, let's put into consideration that there's a lack of particular therapists that are specialists in areas or fit up preferences. You know, like I listed mine, women of color, Christian, etc. Cost of living is astronomical, and it doesn't seem to have a light at the end of the tunnel at all. Inflation is just going to keep getting worse and worse. I read somewhere that we're not going to level out till the end of 2024, y'all. We still got 2.5 more years to truck through this. And who knows if that article is accurate. We might get to the end of 2024 and it's still looking the same. I just pray that God makes a way for everybody under the sound of my voice, everybody that I'm connected to and beyond, because something has got to give. Like, you can only live with like your eyes above water or your neck above water for so long. Like, after a while, it bears weight on you. It's not healthy. It's not healthy at all. And then my first reason was really, that therapy is expensive. Like, if you don't, again, millions of people are uninsured or underinsured. So I'm sorry, I'm not paying out of pocket for therapy. Like, not if I gotta figure out bills and all that other stuff. Like, no, that it's still very much a luxury. So I just hope at some point we get to a point where we could have some sort of therapy included in our primary care, and that could at least be a step in the right direction. And then at some point, hopefully, just insurance overall and benefits become more inclusive. But that's all I really wanted to say, y'all. Like I said, I did part 1 of this back in January or February, where I was just talking about why we need Jesus in therapy, because I feel like while the church in particular is getting more embracing of therapy and mental health assistance, we still have to find the balance, I believe, where we don't feel like where we don't get to a point or continue being in a point where it's almost like borderline victim blaming. Because I've heard that too many times about like, well, just face your way out of it. Just pray a little harder. And don't get me wrong, prayer works. Faith works. All these things work. But like ROSLYN said last week, but yeah, therapy is also very helpful as well. So check that out. I don't remember if I linked it down below. I probably did, more than likely. But if you scroll back, like I said, the thumbnail says you need Jesus in therapy, and I'm holding my head in a red sweater. So that's it, y'all. Thank you for listening. Thursday, come back and invite people, y'all, because we need to really learn more about this. But Thursday night, Priscilla Henley is going to be here talking about depression and bipolar disorder as a Christian. She is diagnosed with both. She is such a sweetheart. I am looking forward to this conversation because I want to learn. I want to learn how I could be a better assistance and a better just resource and all of these things. And she's an open book too. So it's going to be great. 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central. Make sure that you are here. Invite your friends, your family, your mama and them. And I'm going to see you here. Thanks, Michelle. I'm glad you enjoyed it. And thanks, Tania. I'm glad you enjoyed it as well. I will see both of y'all because y'all are real MVPs. So I know I'm going to see y'all. But to everybody else watching, tune in on Thursday and support everything that my guests do. And then next Thursday is going to be me, Yasmin, and Shay talking about our personal experiences with anxiety. And Sunday is story time. Okay, bring a snack, bring a drink, a smoothie, whatever. Because baby, I'm about to be spilling my own tea on Sunday, but it's gonna be a good story. Because I've been saying I'm gonna tell this story for over a year, and I'm finally ready. I finally feel like it's time, and so it's gonna be good. But I'm gonna head out, y'all. Y'all have a good night. Be safe out there. I'm gonna see y'all on Thursday. So bye. Love y'all.